This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're here at the LD Micro Invitational 2017 in Bel Air, California. With me right now is Steve Martin from AmpliPhi Biosciences. It's a publicly traded company with the symbol APHB. Steve, welcome to SNNLive.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
It's great to have you on. Thank you for joining us. So, for our audience, let's start off with an overview of the company and then go from there.
Sure thing. My name is Steve Martin. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the company. We're AmpliPhi Biosciences. We're based in San Diego, and we're publicly traded under the ticker APHB. So we're going to talk a bit about bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is a natural predator bacteria, and what we're out to do is kill those nasty superbugs, which are more and more prevalent in the world, and if you read the materials, it's going to be a big issue going forward. So happy to answer any questions about that.
Oh, I got plenty, let me tell you. So, to start from there, let's get a little bit more into the science. Where was it developed? Tell me, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Sure. So AmpliPhi is a combination of a number of companies that came together about 5 years ago. So we used to have a different company name, and 5 years ago we used the remaining assets to acquire an entity in the UK, an entity in Australia, and an entity in the eastern part of Europe, all in bacteriophage. So we've been at it about 5 years, as I said. We've invested over $60 million in bacteriophage technology. And so the combination of our intellectual property, our people, and a certified manufacturing facility in Slovenia give us the capabilities to develop bacteriophage unlike anybody else in the world. So bacteriophage, as I said, is a natural predator bacteria. It's a natural occurring substance. It's found in the wild, and we develop cocktails of bacteriophage that, when put together, they can seek out and kill the bacteria that are most hurtful to humans and the society right now. So we have two primary cocktails. One is for a Pseudomonas indication, and the other is for a Staph aureus disease. So we are entering the clinic. We're already in the clinic on one of the programs for Staph aureus. We've completed a phase 1 successfully. We had a meeting with the FDA, and we're phase 2 ready. We intend to partner to that program. Additionally, we have a Pseudomonas cocktail, which is 4 phages. We've had good preclinical data, and we intend to enter the phase 1 phase of that program relatively soon. So in each case, we've gone to the appropriate next step. We've got plans to partner those two assets, and I'll talk a bit about a compassionate use approach that we're going to take, which is a little less costly and also appropriate for the FDA at this time.
So before we get into that, what I'm a little more curious about also is, what was the competitive landscape like? Were there other companies developing similar type of cocktails using this type of bacteriophage technology, or are you guys the first?
Good question. So it goes way back. Phage has been known for about 100 years. In about the 1940s, antibiotics came into existence in the U.S. primarily, and so the U.S. rapidly advanced antibiotics, and the Eastern Bloc, Soviet states and others, did not get the key to the kingdom there, and so they stayed active with phage. Phage has been around and used a long time in the human body, in the environmental setting, and in other ways, so it's a natural occurring approach to kill bacteria, but our company is now going back in time, in effect. Antibiotics, as we know, are specific to certain bacteria, and when the bacteria morph away from those antibiotics, it can lead to situations where the patient has no other recourse and no other action to be recovered. So bacteriophage has been around a long time, but we developed the technology based upon our experience in the UK and Australia. We still have those strong experts. There are no other companies like us that are as far along in the clinic in bacteriophage. There's a couple other companies that are dabbling in it. More and more, you're probably going to hear the terminology as bacteriophage comes into play, but we are much further along than all other companies in our space.
So for your target indications, what's the current method of treatment, and how is what you're developing different from that?
So for our target indications, typically there's a number of antibiotics that work in the body, and so you bomb the bacteria with antibiotics. What happens then is that the antibiotics kill the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and potentially over time, if you overprescribe antibiotics, the bacteria may not be affected by it whatsoever. And so our approach is completely different. Let's go find a specific phage that'll kill those bacteria, not kill any other mammalian cells, and only focus on the bad bacteria.
So you spoke a little bit about a compassionate use that you wanted to introduce to the FDA. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So a quick story. and this has been published as recently as about a month ago. There was an individual, he was age 69, he was traveling abroad, he was relatively good health. He came across an Acinetobacter infection. It was in his body. He was airlifted back to UC San Diego. In San Diego, they tried everything. Nothing worked. They bombed it with antibiotics. He was in a coma. His kidneys were failing. He was breaking down. And his wife, who's a saint, reached out to a number of companies, including AmpliPhi and some other companies like the U.S. Navy and UC San Diego, and we put together a phage cocktail based upon an isolate evaluation of those bacteria that were hurting Dr. P. We'll call him Dr. P. We and others developed the cocktails within a few days. We accessed the FDA through an emergency IND, and before you know it, we're able to dose the patient. It's in his body. He's overcoming it. He comes out of the coma. Within 5 days, he's walking. He's up and out of bed because of the bacteriophage. So two things happen. We continue to dose the phage into the second week, but also the antibiotics that he'd been receiving also became more effective against the bacterial infection, because the combination of phage and antibiotics we have found and we patented give us the chance to have a unique mechanism of action. So amazing story. We presented it part of the presentation publicly. The FDA heard about the story, and we've also had open dialogue with the FDA, and they're very supportive of us doing that in other patients. So back to your question, we intend to initiate that program first in Australia, where we have a lot of experience. We have a number of hospitals that will be lined up with those doctors, with those patients, and they'll call us and we'll develop cocktails, either from our existing stash of Staph and Pseudomonas cocktails, or we'll develop prescribed from our phage library as a cocktail that we'll utilize to kill those bacteria of interest. There's about 6 bacteria that the World Health Organization has identified are particularly troublesome, and so we expect to first start with those 6 programs in Australia and expand from there. Our intention is to dose 10 patients in 2017, evaluate the data, present the data, and of course hope to see value inflection points as a result of that.
So my next question is, I want to talk a little bit about the executive team you put together for this company. Let's get into that.
So as I said, I'm the Chief Financial Officer. My background is about a year and a half with the company. Originally a CPA, spent a lot of time in the biotech pharmaceutical sector, and so very excited about the technology when I joined, and also we have a fantastic board that I've had a chance to work with. We recently had a CEO change, so one of our members of the board of directors, his name is Dr. Paul Grint. He comes recently from Regulus, but he's also had experience with Pfizer and IDEC and lots of experience in anti-infectives, drug approvals, and success with the FDA, and so he happened to be available and also a board member, and so we changed and just announced it about a week ago that Dr. Grint has joined us full-time as a CEO, and so he is the perfect guy to lead us through the next step on our phase 2 and our phase 1, and also in the compassionate use case story. So besides Paul, we have a strong chief operating officer in Dr. Igor Belinsky, who has a good relevant experience also in the category, and then a number of balanced board members, including the chairman of the board who's based in Australia, and a number of other public companies, CEOs, and some CFOs who kind of balance out the team, so we have a very effective organization.
So Steve, from what you can tell me, what are some of the companies, you already got into this a little bit, but from what you can tell me, what are some of the company's near-term milestones that you're hoping to achieve?
Happy to explain that. So we just raised money in May of 2017. We're in June now, and so we raised about $9 million net, and we did that at a public transaction with a combination of common and warrants, and we have capital now through the middle part of 2018. So we think that's perfect. That's going to give us a chance to deliver some data. So what we intend to do is in the latter part of 2017, deliver compassionate use cases through the Australian and maybe some U.S. hospitals, present that data, get the publicly available information out there, and probably follow up in the latter part of 2017, early 2018 with the FDA and other regulatory agencies like the European Regulatory Authority, as also the Australian Regulatory Authority. Make sure we're on the right path, present the feedback, and we think develop a modified regulatory path that might speed the process of getting approvals on a therapeutic in the bacteriophage space. So milestones are going to be data, probably some publications, potentially some partnership or some hospital sharing arrangements where we collaborate with others, and then I would expect we'll continue to develop the types of cocktails that are going to be applicable to the bacteria of interest in the marketplace.
And where can our audience go and find more information about the company?
Great question. So again, we're AmpliPhi Biosciences. We're publicly traded. Our website is amplifybio.com. And of course, the website will give you the information on the products and the technology. And of course, all of our information is public on the SEC site. So thank you very much.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're here at the LD Micro Invitational 2017 in Bel Air, California. With me again has been Steve Martin from AmpliPhi Biosciences, publicly traded company with the symbol APHB. Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.